Okay, everyone. Good morning. It's the Creator has given us a beautiful day here today to do this great celebration. I'm Rick Wilson. I'm the Minister of Indigenous Relations, and I'm very pleased to be your MC here today. I don't think Chief Fox is with us today, but I just want to thank him and his council and the Kenney First Nation for inviting us today onto your lands and sharing this important announcement. I was met when I first came. Patrick Blackplume and Rod Firstrider and Marcel, they're with the Horn Society. Thank you for coming today. It's an honor for you to be here with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Where's Georgette? Where did you go? There. I was such an honor to meet Georgette this morning. She saw me. I have my buffalo on, and she said she's with Motokista, the Buffalo Women's Society. Thank you for honoring us with your presence today. Thank you so much. Again, thank you, Elder Gilbert Eaglebear, for the blessing. It's always an honor to have an elder give us a blessing and start us off right to get the Creator's blessing to start us off in a good way here today. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity and a pleasure to work with Chief Fox and his council, and we've laughed together, we've cried together. I think last time I was here was with Jason's funeral premiere. Yeah, that was a sad day. Yeah, thank you. We honor him very much always. So we've got today with us, I think, Councillor Dorothy Firstrider. You're going to stand in for. Where are you at? There you are. Hello. She's going to stand in for Chief today. Marcel Weaselhead's with us. Kyla Crow. And all the other, if there's any other members of the Blood Tribe Council and administration here today. And also it was an honor to meet Chancellor Charles Weaselhead. Honor. There you are. Thank you. These are dedicated leaders to the health and wellness of their people. As you know, the mental and physical health are two of the 4 keys to the circle of health, the other 2 being emotional and spiritual. And we also need to be mindful of all those 4 in the balance to maintain overall good health. I want to thank all of you for standing with us today on this historic announcement. It's an honor to be here with my colleagues. We have Premier Jason Kenney with us. Premier, thank you for coming. We have Mental Health and Addictions Associate Minister Jason Luan. We've got some MLAs with us here. Joseph Scow, you can't miss him, from Cardston Siksika. Roger Reed for Livingstone McLeod. Nathan Newdorf for Lethbridge East. These are all dedicated people working hard for your health and safety. Also joining us, we've got the mayor today of the city of Lethbridge, Chris Spearman. Is Lauren Hickey here, the Reeve? Oh, there you are, sorry. I don't recognize anybody with your masks on. And Valerie Campbell from Foothills Center in Fort Macleod. There you are. I just thank you everyone for joining us in person on the phone or watching remotely. And thank you for joining us today. I don't know if you noticed coming in, but they're set up for the Sundance, but because of COVID, it's difficult to do. But if Georgette, she said she'd honor me and take me over later. So if you would do that, I'd be pleased to do that with you. So it's a beautiful day here on Southern Alberta on Treaty 7. Not too hot yet, so it's good. It's for this important announcement. So today we're going to have the Premier speak to us, Associate Minister Luan, Councillor Firstrider, Chancellor Weaselhead, and MLA Scow shortly. Following our speakers, then we're going to have a media opportunity. And with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to the Premier. Premier Kenney.
Okay. Sugapi. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Rick, Minister Wilson, and thanks as well, again, to Councillor Firstrider and the Kenney people for hosting us today on your beautiful land for today's important announcement about expanding treatment and recovery services for folks struggling with addiction. here in Southern Alberta, here on the Blackfoot First Nation, as well as an important announcement about economic recovery. And thanks to all of these community leaders for being here. Thanks, Elder, again for your wonderful blessing and for bringing us into the presence of the Creator as we make this important announcement. Let me begin by complimenting the Blood Tribe Department of Health on your success in managing COVID-19. To date, you've only had about 50 positive results on more than 5,000 COVID tests, and I understand there are currently only 11 active cases in the community. Although I know that many family and friends of Elder and Cowboy Buck Manyfigures are grieving his loss. Your success in managing this public health menace says to me that the Kainaiwa, like all Albertans, have shown great personal and community responsibility in following the basic health guidelines needed to contain the spread of the virus and protect the vulnerable especially. That's good news. And we haven't seen enough good news lately, so we'll take all the good news we can get. Our economy was finally starting to rebound earlier this year after 5 years of stagnation when this pandemic hit. So all of us, including those already suffering from mental illness and addiction, suddenly faced many more stresses related to life, to jobs, and perhaps, most importantly, to people's social lives. Being cooped up at months at home with things we love, like the summer rodeo and now powwow season, pretty much completely shut down, is really hard on people. It's times like these when we really miss friends, like my late friend and yours, Jason Goodstriker, who could always find humor and a silver lining in any situation. If Jason was still with us today, I'm sure he'd agree that we have to make the best of things. And while that means being as smart and careful as possible about living with the threat of the coronavirus, it also means doing everything we can to advance our economic recovery and get back to living as normally as possible. Because at the end of the day, the best prevention for many of the things that lead to mental illness and addiction is a steady job, a decent income, a good education for children, and hope for a positive future about oneself and your family. Over 1 million Albertans elected this government with a mandate that included a commitment to make transformative changes in our province's approach to mental health and addiction. Despite the really tough fiscal situation we inherited, we budgeted $140 million additional dollars to increase comprehensive support for Albertans challenged by mental health issues and battling the destructive impact of addiction. With the arrival of the worst public health crisis in a century, causing the biggest economic contraction since the Great Depression, plus the largest ever collapse in oil prices, Albertans are now facing a real unemployment rate of probably north of 20%, and so many are struggling to hold on to their jobs, their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods. An all too real consequence of these challenges is a sense of despair for many that deepens mental illness and often leads to increased substance abuse. That's why Alberta's government has further increased its investment in supporting the mental health of Albertans in dealing with the challenge of addictions and with an additional $53 million for COVID-related mental health and addiction recovery support. That's more than the COVID mental health support being provided by all 9 other Canadian provinces combined. That's how serious we are about helping people coping with addiction and mental health challenges. We're determined to be the leaders in Canada and global leaders in assisting people to find recovery from mental health and addictions because we know the two are obviously so often connected. Together, mental health and addiction makes up one of the biggest and toughest public health challenges of our time. It's why we're determined to build a long-needed, province-wide, sustained and effective continuum of care that spans from prevention to treatment to lifetime recovery. For too long, public health policy on addictions, including in this province recently, has been monopolized by a single-minded focus on one approach, and that involved in part setting up drug consumption sites, consumption sites that are at best about managing addiction rather than treating it, and moreover have had a very negative impact on local neighborhoods, on livelihoods, on jobs, on businesses, and crime rates. And that's why Alberta's government kept an election commitment to appoint an expert panel to assess the social and economic data, the impact of drug consumption sites. This was a panel made up of addictions experts, people in recovery from addiction, people who have lost family members to addiction, academics, scholars, medical experts, law enforcement personnel, and folks from the business community too. They came back with hard evidence that many of the drug consumption sites around Alberta ended up creating significant negative damage on local neighboring communities, on the economy, with an increase in crime and in some places an increase in death in nearby areas. That report raised serious concerns about the operations of the Arches consumption site in Lethbridge, the largest drug consumption site in the province, which led to this month's shocking audit report alleging financial malfeasance at Arches, including what appears to be some people profiting personally from the misery of others suffering from drug addiction. And I think this is disgusting. It is outrageous. I condemn that kind of behavior, and that is why Alberta's government is withdrawing funding from that organization. There will be a seamless transition to services, and that is part of what today's announcement is about. We've also referred this matter to law enforcement to ensure that there are legal consequences for abusing tax dollars and exploiting addicts in such a terrible way on an issue as important as this. That's also why our government is determined to provide a real, life-giving alternative, an alternative through a continuum of care, of effective treatment, leading to the ultimate goal of recovery. This may be the basis. Must be the basis of Alberta's strategy. The evidence that recovery is possible is all around us. We are selling people short if we tell them they cannot recover from the destructive impact of addiction. Treatment does work. Tens of thousands of Albertans are living proof of it in people who are in short and long-term recovery. They serve as an inspiration to all of us that this health challenge can be overcome, and there are effective life-giving solutions. Those heroic Albertans who have overcome addiction from every walk of life, from all of our communities, from First Nations, from all backgrounds, rich and poor, whoever they are, wherever they come from, their message to us is this: please build a community health response that is safe for the community and is based on evidence of what works. And that's exactly what Alberta is doing. From the start of the COVID crisis, I've talked about balancing the protection of people's lives and their livelihoods. On livelihoods, that's why earlier this month we announced Alberta's bold, ambitious recovery plan to build, to grow, to diversify, to create jobs. Our plan includes the single largest government infrastructure investment in Alberta history, the largest per capita in Canada, a $10 billion investment this year, followed by likely $10 billion next year. This year alone, it will create 50,000 new jobs, in addition to the other actions we're taking to bring investment and growth back to Alberta. I'd like to thank Minister Prasad Panda, Minister of Infrastructure, for his hard work on this build program. This investment will build roads, schools, hospitals, and yes, irrigation down here in Southern Alberta. And in fact, we were in Lethbridge recently for the announcement about the agricultural exhibition that will be massively expanded. We were at Tabor recently for the twinning of much of Highway 3, many more great investments being made in Southern Alberta. But it will also be invested in Albertans suffering from addiction by constructing a network of recovery treatment centers to help them get their lives back. As Minister Lewan announced earlier this month, we are investing an additional $25 million under Alberta's Economic Recovery Plan to build 5 new recovery and treatment facilities across Alberta that will add 400 mental health and addiction treatment beds. Last Saturday, we announced the first of these new treatment facilities, a 75-bed, fully equipped recovery community in Red Deer. And today, I am very pleased to announce that Alberta taxpayers are investing more than $10 million to build 2 new recovery communities here in Southern Alberta. These include a $5 million investment for a 75-bed recovery community right here on the Blood Reserve, and another $5 million. Go ahead. And another $5 million for a 50-bed recovery community in Lethbridge County. This is great news, and I want to thank the leaders in the Kenney Nation for their diligent work on this and their partnership in helping to save lives of people who have fallen into the trap of addiction. In addition to these recovery communities, we will dramatically expand access to medical detox in the region. This includes an additional $1 million annually to upgrade 16 detox beds at the Foothills Center in Fort Macleod. And thank you for your good work. And an additional $1.2 million annually to add up to 15 detox and transition beds in the city of Lethbridge. For those who don't know, recovery communities, also known as therapeutic communities, are a new state-of-the-art approach to addiction treatment and recovery. It's a long-term holistic treatment for people struggling with substance abuse, trauma, mental health issues. It's being successfully used in 65 countries around the world, including as a central pillar of the so-called Portuguese model. And this is very different from what we have sometimes seen in Canada, where people are maybe first of all, they do detox, but then they can't get into a treatment center, or they get into a treatment center and treatment only lasts 3 or 4 weeks. Before they know it, sometimes they're back trapped in addiction. This is about a long-term approach that can be months and months of holistic support. People enter into recovery communities are given every opportunity and encouragement to take control of their addiction, to achieve sobriety, to improve their health, to reconnect with their loved ones. They rediscover personal accountability and self-reliance, compassion for others injured by their actions, and the love of those who care for them. The recovery community experience is about far more than just abstinence from drug use, although that is obviously essential. It's about confronting the realities of life, learning how to cope with them, and becoming a strong, self-reliant, and fully functioning person. Participants advance through the stages of treatment at their own pace, assuming greater responsibility in the community along the way. The goal is to leave the program not just drug-free, but also employed or going back to school. Recovery communities also allow participants to heal and to find their rightful place in their community as responsible, law-abiding, contributing citizens. The recovery community here on the Blood First Nation will be operated by the tremendous team that already operates the Bringing the Spirit Home program. I want to give a big shout out to all of those staff who are saving lives every day in that program. Thank you for what you do. This announcement isn't just a lifeline for people living with and suffering from addiction. It's also a message of hope for their families and friends, and for all those who endure the related impact of crime and social disorder. To those struggling with addictions, you are our family members, our friends, our neighbors, and our co-workers, and we will do everything we can in this province to support you, to encourage you in your pursuit of recovery and a better life. Let me close by again thanking the Kainaiwa First Nation and our partners in Lethbridge County, City of Lethbridge, and Fort Macleod for your support and encouragement in taking up the challenge to transform the way that we treat addiction in Alberta. You are part of a growing alliance of nonprofits and charities, faith groups in all parts of our province who know there is a better way, and I look forward to Alberta's government announcing other recovery community locations around the province over the rest of the summer. So the message today is that true compassion begins when we support each other to make a better life, to stay connected with family, to heal the issues that divide our communities. Treatment works and recovery is possible. Thank you very much. Olki.
Well, in these troubling times, what a great message of hope, Premier. Thank you so much. Let's give him another hand. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I've been remiss. I see we've got a bunch of frontline workers here. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for being out there. Good job. Appreciate that out there. I'm going to ask Minister Luan to come next, please.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, all my nations. Getting close? I just learned that this morning here. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming here today. I would like to begin by thanking the chief here and the council for having us here on your beautiful land. I'm pleased to be here today with our premier, my colleagues, local government officials, as well as Blood Tribe First Nations. I have a long prepared speech, but I'm going to go off speech now because I feel like this is the third time I'm coming back here. It's feeling like coming home. Shortly after I took the office, I toured around the province. That's where I visited this place and had the first chance looking at that Bring Home Spirit program. Let me tell you this, the creativity you have by combining EMS services with detox and operate that in the reserve setting with a full community support is nothing but very creative. Left a huge impression to me. With a couple of follow-up and my very first opportunity, we announced four times double the capacity for that program, increasing from 4 bed capacity to 24 with 2.2 million annually for 3 years. So congratulations again for your great work. To today, you remain one of the most creative detox services in our province. With Premier's announcement today, you hear Premier articulate so well about this recovery community model, long-term, community-based, holistic approach, touching not only body, mind, but spirit. It's a whole lifestyle change. Let me tell you this, that model that was endorsed by 65 countries around the world actually originated from the indigenous culture. What can be better? We bring that home here to Kenney Nation, to Blood Reserve, and to be one of the another unique program for long-term treatment in Alberta. So congratulations for that. I also want to extend what Premier announced, the significance of the increased capacity for detox in Fort Macleod, in Lethbridge, another treatment center in Lethbridge. As a total, for Southern Alberta, this collective announcement is on top of a couple months ago, I came here with Minister Schweizer, announced drug treatment court. You can see this is our government's action for a recovery-oriented, full continuum care by focusing on getting people out of addiction. So again, I want to congratulate folks representing Lethbridge, representing Fort Macleod, representing Southern Alberta. What another big day today. The increased capacity we're putting in now is more than double what the current capacity is. So congratulations. Last but not least, I want to draw back to what Premier talked about, this Alberta recovery, Alberta model. So we took the best practice around the world, we apply that to Alberta content. By way of building those recovery community, we're adopting one of our oil and gas industry well-proven techniques by using modular homes. We can quickly build up those treatment facilities. We can scale it up, scale it down, and perhaps even move that down the road. So that is a technology well-established in Alberta way of accommodating the needs. We borrow that for our treatment, for a recovery community, and that's how those 5 communities will be built. We're anticipating this will be fast track. We can look forward to its operation early next year. With that model, that Alberta way, I also want to emphasize, you hear Premier talk about, for years in our province, unfortunately, we have mental health and addiction services have no direction. It's built on one pillar approach, stayed on its own existence, but created a system chaos. With his leadership, with the creation of a new office, I'm very fortunate to be the first one to have a chance to work on it. I see the great potential that we can be laser focused about recovery, and we have an end goal when we even before start this journey, that our focus is about finding pathways to create openings for people that they have a path to get out of addiction, live in a healthy, constructive life, rather than continue the miserable, destructive life of mental illness and addiction. And I must say that I am so appreciative of our Premier have the foresight, can connect that dot, can also connect what the mental health front is doing in contribution to our economy. I got the latest report released from Canadian Institute of Substance Use. They did a study for the economic cost for substance use in Canada, and concluded the total cost for Canadians are $46 billion a year, and that number equivalent to Alberta is $6.6 billion for us. A major part of that $6.6 billion is loss of productivity when people are getting into substance use. Can you imagine when we build those holistic approach for treatment, when we are turning people from being a burden to the community, destructive to themselves, and lost employment and lost the ability to contribute into our economy, into the other side of the equation, which is healthy living and can go back to the workforce, can get back to our economic recovery path. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that something that we all want to see happening? I see some nod. So with today's announcement, it's historical. It's setting a new chapter. And I say the train has left the station. Let's get on with it, get the work done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lalonde. And that's what passion is. His heart's in it, and it's just amazing to work with him. He's a great guy. I'm going to ask Councillor Firstrider to come forward.
Okay, Damix Kanotoni Nistwako Kitumomaka. On behalf of Chief and Council and the Board of Health, I would like to welcome all of the dignitaries, Premier Kenney, all Chris Spearman from Lethbridge, the Board of Health, and some of the employees, and of course the frontline workers. And I would like to thank Gilbert Eaglebear for the heartfelt prayer that he offered for us today. This is an exciting news for the Blood Tribe. The Blood Tribe has been very concerned with addictions for a number of years. We have experienced many deaths in our community, and as we all know, one death is one too many. With the announcement of the 75-bed treatment and recovery facility that hopefully is going to open its doors probably by next summer or in the early spring, this is a very ambitious timeline, but because of the need for the treatment recovery, Chief and Council are going to do everything to ensure that this facility is open to the people that are addicted as soon as possible. We've witnessed the impact of the mental health addictions in our community, to the families that have experienced this and that have attempted to support people that have been addicted to it within their families. This facility is going to be located on the Blood Reserve. It will be operated, managed, and administered by the Blood Tribe. We have a lot of professionals, counselors that will be able to utilize the holistic approach to ensure that they are able to support people with addictions on their road to recovery. The people that are going to be utilizing the treatment facility are going to be supported by the community to ensure the success to the path to their recovery. And as well, they will be drawing on their traditions, their culture, and their ceremonies. And once again, I would like to thank all of you for the hard work that the Alberta government, the Board of Health, in negotiating and lobbying, advocating for the treatment recovery, and ensuring that it is going to become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Firstrider. Chancellor Weaselhead, would you like to come forward? There you are.
Thank you very much. Okay. Nistwana kok tatsiki pui. Ksix kochanak smatsim khwan kskanatuni. Okay moksi umpakita pigs. Ikuta yaksi ta gyop kagita atsina pspa kukosin nonix akika. Ksix kochanak smatsim khwan kskanatuni. Nistwana kok tatsiki pui. I would like to extend a warm welcome to His Honor Premier Jason Kenney. Welcome, Premier. We are so grateful to have you in our home community on the Blood Reserve, home to approximately 14,000 members. The Blood Tribe is a proud member of the Blackfoot Confederacy. I would like to acknowledge our Chief and Council members who are here present with us today, and on behalf of Dorothy First Rider, who is representing our Chief, Roy Fox. I'd like to follow the cue of Premier Kenney by acknowledging each and every one of you, especially the dignitaries from the federal and provincial government, our mayors that are here with us today, and of course our Blood Tribe Department of Health, our representatives, the Board of Health, our CEO, and the many members that are here present with us today. That includes our doctors, our emergency responders, our mental health workers, our service support employees, and last but not least, our community members and our volunteers, of course. Thank you to Premier Kenney for being part of the change within our community by supporting and collaborating with the Blood Tribe Department of Health to provide the much-needed Community Health Center of Excellence to combat addictions, mental health at all levels. Your dedication and support for our community and surrounding communities and jurisdictions exemplifies your commitment in advancing the common good in our communities. Together in the spirit of reconciliation, we can inspire hope and create opportunities for a better tomorrow. As we know, opioid addiction spreads like a thread in the whole fabric of our communities. The combination of treatment and providing a cultural appropriate setting has proven very effective and is considered a hallmark of success of our Blood Tribe community health and addiction model. This call to action has been responded by our partners, the Government of Alberta, led by our Premier, along with his health and addiction specialists, that Indigenous communities and surrounding communities are given equal access to treatment. Drugs and addictions have a massive impact on the lives of so many people, and First Nations are 3 to 5 times more likely to die from opioid overdose than non-Indigenous Albertans. In the next 2 to 5 years, our integrated health and social care programs will provide opportunities to assist our people to resolve their mental health and drug addiction issues. Our framework for action is built on the Bringing the Spirit Home program. It is generally understood that First Nation communities are disproportionately affected by the opioid crisis. Subsequently, our leadership has placed a state of emergency on 2 different occasions since 2015. I want to thank our frontline staff for their dedication, their commitment, and hard work for going above and beyond expectations to combat addiction and mental health in our community. They have helped create a framework that speaks for the community in one voice. They have helped to create a framework that speaks on our Blackfoot teachings and traditions, as well as context related to our Blood Tribe population, our geography, our needs and resources, with thorough attention to the opioid crisis. I want to thank our frontline staff workers who are here with us today, tremendous workers who provide time and effort day in and day out, 24/7. It's not an easy job, you know. They wear their passion for their programs and their sleeves, you know. And I commend you all under the care and supervision of Jason Avery, the Board of Health, and many of our frontline staff. I would like to share one client's perspective and quote, "When I walked into the Bringing the Spirit Home program, I knew I had left my spirit in the city streets, and I called it back during my period here at Bringing the Spirit Home program. That speaks volumes on what kind of program that provides respect, that provides dignity to our clients, you know, to provide that treatment, that care for them when they enter through those doors, you know. And I know our frontline staff, our specialists, take it upon themselves to provide every opportunity to provide a flexible program, bar none to any other program, you know. I want to thank the Premier at this point for providing this historic occasion to provide more opportunities to provide spaces for our clientele. Once again, on behalf of the Blood Tribe Department of Health and Chief and Council, we want to thank the Premier for giving us the opportunity to provide an addiction program for all people in Southern Alberta, and I want to thank his seal of confidence to provide Blood Tribe Department of Health to operate and run this 75 bed program together. So once again, thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Weaselhead. And talk about dedication, we've lost half of our frontline workers. They went out on a call just now. So thank you for being here. Now we've got a little guy with a big heart, or a big guy with a big heart, Joseph Scow, MLA.
Well, thank you, Minister. And I'm glad that this microphone could pick up my voice from this high up. It's a beautiful day for such a spectacular announcement. And I would like to thank the Premier, Jason Kenney, for coming down here to be here for this monumentous occasion. I want to thank Minister Wilson and Minister Luan for their tireless effort in support down here in the South. I also want to acknowledge and thank Blood Tribe Chief and Council, also Patrick Blackplume of the Horn Society, Rod Firstrider of the Horn Society, and Georgette Fox of Buffalo Women's Society. Thank you for being here. Also want to thank Mayor Chris Spearman of the City of Lethbridge, Reeve Lauren Hickey of Lethbridge County, and Valerie Campbell, the Executive Director of Foothill Center for Fort Macleod. Folks, when I was elected as the representative for Cardston-Siksika, it's a role that it's an honor and a pleasure to serve in that role. I made one promise to people at the doors. I said the South would not be forgotten. And this is a fulfillment of that promise. I'm so grateful to be part of a government that takes its commitment to the sickness of addiction seriously. As mentioned, 2 recovery communities will be established, one right here in the Blood Tribe and one outside the city of Lethbridge. This is in addition to the 16 new and updated detox beds at the Foothill Center in Fort Macleod and another 15 that will be announced in the coming weeks. We've seen recently that a one-size-fits-all approach to addiction just doesn't work. So I'm happy to stand here today and to take part of this announcement that tackles real struggles of addiction. As the Minister said, Albertans struggling with addiction deserve access to high-quality, effective, recovery-oriented care. And fighting addiction can be one of the most difficult and biggest struggles in a person's life. That's why I'm proud of our government's commitment to developing strategies and facilities that focus on real recovery practices. But the most important part of this strategy and the path to recovery is the community involvement. I'm grateful for the frontline workers who are here today. You are at the front line of this crisis and you see firsthand the devastation this has on the friends and family that it affects. Thank you. By working together, the province, the municipalities, and the nonprofit sector, and the people of the community, by all of us coming together, we can ensure that those struggling with addiction have a clear and successful path to recovery. Today's announcement is one great leap that clears that path. Thank you.
MLA Scow is proof that one size does not fit all.
That's actually a new one. That's pretty good.
We got to have a little fun, too. So I think we'll go to questions now.
Sure thing. All right, so if you could please limit yourself to one question, and then we'll hop over to the phone to catch anyone online there. So please go to the microphone provided in the front for questions.
For Mayor Spearman. The SES drew a lot of backlash from the community. Do you feel this new recovery center will have that same weight, or do you feel this is something that the people of Lethbridge can buy into?
Today we're hitting the reset button. I thank the Premier, I thank the Government of Alberta, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. Lethbridge is the center of a lot of the resources that are needed for those struggling with addiction. And I think we can learn from the Blackfoot community, the wonderful Bring the Spirit Home program. I wish we could have Bring the Spirit Home Lethbridge and benefit from your expertise. We need to have programs that people have confidence in. We need to give people hope. We need to give people a chance to have meaningful lives. And the announcements today are a new way of doing things. As I said, we're hitting the reset button. We're going to do things differently. We're going to work with our regional partners. We're going to work with the folks in Fort Macleod, the folks in Lethbridge County, the folks right here on the Blood Reserve. We're going to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. We talk about reconciliation. We try to find meaningful reconciliation. And meaningful reconciliation means working together to solve problems we share. Addiction doesn't end at the borders between our communities. It crosses over the borders every day. We do need to work together. I'm committed to doing that. I'll work together with the provincial government, together with our Indigenous neighbours, and make sure that we can all succeed and save lives. Thank you.
Hi, Eloise from Global Lethbridge. If I could have Premier Kenney. Sure. Could you just reiterate how many jobs this project will create, as well as any specific locations for these two new facilities in Lethbridge County?
We estimate the creation of about 50 jobs in the building of the facilities, and of course there will be additional operating jobs going on in the future. This is part of the broader economic recovery build program of $10 billion that we estimate will create 50,000 jobs, which includes the expansion of the Lethbridge X and the twinning of Highway 3. So again, these are these two projects that we estimate about 50 new jobs, which is good news, and look forward to working with the city, the county, and the First Nation on ensuring that these get done as quickly as possible. Minister Lawan, I'm putting you on notice. I want monthly updates. We want this not just on schedule, we want it ahead of schedule, right?
You got it.
Perfect. Just before we hop back to the floor here, I'll just ask the operator, please put through the first caller.
Our first question comes from Alana Smith of Post Media. Your line is open.
Hey there. My question is for Premier Kenney. I just wanted to know, you say the Alberta government is focused on saving lives. However, the United Conservatives have made numerous announcements that either directly condemn or most recently defund supervised consumption sites in Alberta. So I'm wondering to what extent the United Conservative Party, one, believes in harm reduction, and two, understands the true continuum of care. And then in addition to that, I'm also wondering how your government can stand behind a report that has since been dismissed by academics, scientists, healthcare professionals across the country for what they say has a flawed methodology and clear bias. Thank you.
Well, first of all, the report, the expert panel report, was written by experts. It was written by people who have lost loved ones to addiction. It was written by academics, law enforcement experts, and people who are in recovery. So I think the way you framed that question is quite typically insulting. I know you have a strong point of view on this. I wish you would report these matters with a greater degree of objectivity. The truth is this, that handing somebody who's deep in addiction a needle is not a continuum of care. I don't even think it's terribly compassionate simply to facilitate an addiction rather than to offer a full spectrum of services for recovery and lifetime treatment. That's the approach that we are taking. I think it is, you know, if you think the harm reduction obsession is really successful when it comes to preserving human lives, then I invite you to take a stroll down East Hastings on the downtown east side of Vancouver and see the human carnage around Insight there. The level of mortalities, of deaths that continue to climb, the addictions that continue to destroy lives and ruin communities. I don't think that's terribly compassionate, and clearly in the case of downtown east side has not been terribly effective, as underscored by the expert panel report. I would, you know, cite, for example, the experience of one resident of a detox center in Southern Alberta who was approached by Arches employees offering to drive them to Arches to shoot up. Perhaps you could explain to your readers how it is compassionate to take somebody who's taken the courageous step of going into treatment and then with tax-funded employees offer to drive them to get a drug hit, to destroy their path to recovery. That's not compassionate. Perhaps you could talk to the folks who have been affected by all of this. The one law enforcement officer reporting that, quotes, the SCS is a lawless wasteland. Perhaps you could talk to the families of loved ones who lost their loved ones to addiction in part because recovery and treatment was not available. So we believe this is the continuum of care approach. It is the compassionate approach. It's the approach that will save lives.
Thank you. I don't think we have any other callers on the line, so we'll come back to the floor here.
Hi there, Todd Eaglechild from Bloodshot Communications. So there's a question here. So along with your government's commitment to invest in this much-needed recovery program, is your government willing to commit to continuing the funding and future expansion of the program?
Oops. My glasses falling off. The simple answer is yes. You hear Premier talk about our government commitment for making a huge difference here. We're investing unprecedented resources in this. What you see today and in the coming months is just unfolding of a new chapter. So when Premier talk about the full continuum care, it's not just what you hear here today. Today is the beginning, but with a laser focus. It's about getting people out of addiction. So supportive housing, life skills training, community support, recovery coaches, prevention, intervention, including OAT treatment, all of those are on the table. But the change that you hear Premier talking about, drastically different is when you have a directionless, no focus, kind of pile of all kind of stuff there. A, it's not effective. B, it's frustrating for people to try to navigate that and find the right support for them. I get Premier's direction. I'm going to work hard. We're going to realign the system. We're going to make it very intentional. When you use taxpayers' money, when we use taxpayers' money, we have a mission. The mission is getting them to be healthier, constructive. That's our focal.
So we're just running out of time here, so I want to see if there's any more questions from the floor. And
I'm sorry for that. I unfortunately I have to. My schedule is tight because I have to leave for the funeral of former minister, MLA, and former leader of the opposition, Bob Clark, up in Olds. But let me once again thank all of the members of the Kenney Nation for welcoming us here to the Blood Reserve. Thank you again to our first responders. Thank you to all of the participants, your worships and ministers, MLAs. But most importantly, thanks to those who may be in the crowd or listening who have had the courage to overcome addiction. This is all about people like you and to send a message of hope for others who are struggling, especially right now, today, for too many young Blackfoot people who are struggling with addiction. We want them to know that there is a compassionate response. And once again, thank the Coming Home program for all that they have done and will continue to do. And please pass on my best wishes, Councillor and Chancellor, to my good friend, Chief Roy. I'm sorry he couldn't be with us today, but let him know that this is one more expression of the partnership between Alberta's government and the Kenney First Nation. Thank you.
Thanks again, everybody. This is a wrap. We're going to do a gift presentation now, so if we could have them come forward.